Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tiana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Sculpted podcast. We are very glad you're here joining us today because we're going to be chatting about, I think, one of the most frustrating things that a woman can experience on a fitness journey, and that is feeling like you're working your butt off and still not seeing the results that you want. Because right now, you might be listening thinking, I eat clean, I don't even eat sugar, I've cut that out, I work out 7 days a week. So you feel like you're doing all the things, but then you go to put your clothes on and they still don't fit. You feel bloated, you feel uncomfortable, and then you step on the scale and it just has not budged. So I think it's important to tell you that you're not lazy and you are probably doing a lot of great things. But today we want to call out what's actually going on underneath that I'm trying so hard mindset, because effort alone, it's just not enough. I hate to tell you. And it's not a bad thing because, as we always say, it doesn't mean you have to work harder. It just means you have to work smarter. So today we're going to take that frustrated feeling that you've got, I'm doing all the right things, and we're going to flip it into something more empowering, which is, I haven't found the right thing yet, but I know it's out there and I absolutely know it's possible for me. So if you're listening today and you feel stuck, frustrated, like you're maybe one change away from making that momentum that you know that you want, this episode is going to be great for you because we're going to get super honest, as we always do, about what is holding you back so you can finally move forward. So ladies, are you ready to get into this with me?
Woo! I'm so excited.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, let's do it. So I want to stress this again because a lot of women think that when they're not making the changes that they want, that they're failing, right? We're very much doers. We want to do everything at 100%. So we get really down on ourselves. It's not that you don't care enough, right? It's not that you are lazy, broken, none of those things. You're not making progress because, to be honest, it's a little bit of misinformation and you're actually a little bit misaligned with what you and your body needs right now. So, like I said, for a lot of women, you're doing all the things, but it's just not the right things for your body or the season of life you're in or those goals. And that's why it's not about more hustle or working harder. It is about better strategy and honest tracking, because data is the queen here. And we'll talk about that in this episode. But if effort alone was all it takes, then we would never fault any woman because we'd all be walking around looking, feeling lean, sculpted, strong. But if you are putting in effort and there's no alignment, then it's like you're a hamster on a wheel, really, is what it is. You're just running and getting nowhere. So, T, I'd love to actually pass it on to you to kind of kick us off here. Let's start talking about the hidden mistakes that women are making because truthfully, I think a lot of women don't even realize that they're doing these things.
100%. I love this topic because I hear these all the time. And the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. I want to preface this by saying you might be thinking that you are doing all the right things, but let's look at this tactically. You're obviously not doing the right thing because if you did, you would be making progress. And that's a good thing. It means we have to stop throwing our hands up. And we just talked about this in the last episode and saying, I guess it's my age or what. I'm like the only person who this doesn't work for in the whole entire world. So the truth is, you're not the only unicorn who this doesn't work for. You have 2 arms, 2 legs, a body. Even if you're missing some limbs, you can still make progress. It's true. So let's look at things tactically and see what we need to change. These are the common ones. Number 1, you might be already tracking your food. And I'm one step ahead of you because you're thinking, I've done the MyFitnessPal and it doesn't work. I've had a meal plan. It doesn't work. Okay, number 1, what does doesn't work mean? Because if you're basing it only on the scale, that's a whole other conversation. And you might think it doesn't work, but it was working. And then you gave up because it was working, but you didn't see it. But girl, are you tracking everything? Or are you doing Monday to Friday and you're like, I'm on point, or you're on the meal plan, but you're also having a glass of wine and, you know, a bite of dessert and just finishing my kid's plate. And I hate wasting food.
All those extras.
Yes.
Licking the spoon, licking the knife.
Exactly. And that all adds up. And I've been there. I've told myself too, I'm like, I guess I'm resistant to a calorie deficit. I don't know about that because unless we know you've been in a calorie deficit, we can't say you've been resistant to it. And we have to stop attaching emotion to this. This is where I'm really going to hammer home my tough love tea. You have to stop saying, oh, it's hard and And it's not fair. I don't care what you think it is. You have to track the numbers, okay? You have to weigh the food. It's not nothing bad. Just track it. Be honest. Hey, I'm eating too much. Great. Now you know how to fix it. Number 2, you're lifting and you're thinking one step ahead of you, T. I am already lifting weights, but I'm not seeing the changes. All right, well, you don't have some magic gene, I don't think you do, that prevents you from building muscle. So let's look closer. You're clocking in the time. How is the time spent? It's like the analogy, I want to be a millionaire. If I just keep working hard and I'm a cashier at McDonald's, I'll get there. You will never get there like that. I'm sorry, you won't. So how are you spending that time? Are you spending it in a McDonald's cashier way, or are you spending it in a multi-million-dollar business kind of way in this analogy? What does that look like? You have to be showing up with intensity. You have to be training close to failure. You have to be lifting beyond your body weight, maybe several times your body weight for some lifts. You have to be really pushing to a level where you can't lift the weight anymore. It's not enough to just do bands. It's not enough to do the same set of 15-pound dumbbells watching a random YouTube video. I'm sorry, it is not. You might be doing these things, and I know you're trying. You're sweating. You're probably sweating more than I ever do in my workouts, but that doesn't mean that effort is going to the right place. Do you girls have anything to add to those so far, by the way?
You're crushing it. Keep going.
I was going to say you're crushing it. Yeah.
I'm on a roll because it's my mission.
I feel the passion.
Good.
I'm like, preach.
It's my mission. I always think when I'm saying these things of all the times when I'm not going to go on these rants to random people because they'll never speak to me again, but on the school playground or drop off, people say something out of pocket and I'm like, oh my God, no.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Now's your moment. Get it out.
Yeah.
Now you're asking me, you're listening. So, okay, I have your attention. And I've done all of these things, by the way. So don't think for a second I'm sitting on my high horse and being like, well, I have it all figured out. No, girl, I was here. I'm talking to me 15 years ago. Eating clean. You're eating clean. Okay, great. I'm sure you're eating extremely clean. Do you know how clean I was eating? I was sprouting my quinoa and making, do you guys know what Rejuvelac is? Probably not.
Probably not. But I know you told me you used to make your own almond milk, literally squish your own. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
Girl, that was a drop in the bucket. And like I would get the Spanish almonds to do it because they're not heat processed and they're raw and it has all the nutrients. I was doing the cleanest of eating. Okay. But that doesn't mean that those things have 0 calories. And it's amazing to me that, and not in a bad way, because I used to think this, how many people don't realize that your nuts and your hummus, your avocado, heck, even freaking chicken or these healthy foods, your acai bowls, they have calories. They don't magically go into your body and then your body's like, I think these wellness people think that your body has these signals that's like, all right, these are clean calories. No, the quantity of your food determines your body composition. The quality of your food determines how you feel. And they're both important. I'm not saying let's fill your macros with crap at all. We preach a mostly whole food lifestyle, right? 1 ingredient foods, your meats, your avocado, all these are great foods, but you have to mind the quantity. So if you're not tracking your food and you are confused why you're not losing weight, it's because of the amount. That's it. Also, you might think that you're consistent. And sometimes I hear this, and I'm saying this lovingly to some check-ins people do. They'll be like, I was pretty good. And I'm like, okay, where's the food log? All right. Well, if we crunch the numbers, this was 75% compliant.
Right.
Now, we want to be at like 90%, maybe 95% sometimes if you're really lean. Maybe you think that you're even at 75, but you're at like 50. So unless you have data, your consistency just might not be high enough, or you're doing great on the weekends, or you do great for a while and then you start to self-sabotage because your targets were unrealistic. The thing is, you're not going to get points for trying hard. You actually get results from doing the right things. And that means being brutally honest with yourself. Jord, I would love if you could speak to the women who are in the mindset of needing quick results or else they don't stay motivated, because we hear that one a lot.
Yes. And I want to tie it back to something you just said about feeling like you're trying so hard, because a lot of the women that are trying so hard, it's like this emotional, mental effort. And that is what is so exhausting, right? We're creating this like mental load that is being carried that is so heavy that they can't imagine continuing to carry it forever. And in order to put it down, that's what self-sabotage looks like. And if you think you're working that hard towards a result that isn't happening, but your data isn't there to support it, that's where you're setting yourself up for failure, because the only data, quote unquote, that you're willing to use is qualitative or emotional, then you're setting yourself up for failure from day one. We need hard information. We need actual numbers and data that is tracked in order to do that. Will you do that forever? No, but we need it for a period of time in order to set an appropriate baseline, and then we can move away from it.
Facts over feelings.
Facts over feelings. I love that saying. And so the number one thing I hear when I'm talking to potential clients and just women in my life, they're like, I just want to have a sustainable, healthy way of life. And I want it to be something that I can maintain forever. But if you are still stuck in the mindset of, I need this to also happen as fast as possible at the same time, I want to build a sustainable life, but as fast as possible. Can you do that? No. Have you ever heard the saying? It's like you can't have fast, cheap, and good quality. Like it can only be two of those things can pair up, but like they're not always going to equate. You can't have the quality if you aren't willing to put in the time for it. So when you think about that, you need to really, really reframe your approach. If it took you a year to actually build this lifestyle out, that is nothing when you have another 30, 40 years ahead of you that are going to be mind-blowingly healthy and amazing because now you have this whole new skill set. You've reset this foundation. So that's like the number one thing I'm looking for when I'm having these conversations where they're like, I want a sustainable results, but like, can you get me there in 12 weeks? And it's like, no, I can't get you there in 12 weeks. We need to slow this ship right down and start to rebuild things one brick or board at a time in order to make sure that we're building the right foundation. So if you're expecting those major results to happen in 2 or 4 weeks and that doesn't happen, you're going to end up making adjustments way too soon. You're going to get aggressive way too quickly, and you're going to give up because it became too hard. T, do you want to add something?
I was going to say, like, I want the person listening to consider, okay, let's say you gained 50 pounds. How long did it take you to gain that 50 pounds?
Yes.
When's the last time you were at your comfortable weight? Oh, it was 10 years ago. Okay. So 10 years to gain it, 10 weeks to lose it?
Yeah, it doesn't track.
Doesn't add up.
And a lot of women in this self-sabotage space, they always default to willpower.
Yeah.
And I know this story so well because that was literally me 10, 15 years ago. It was me who was like, I just need to do more. I just need to be better. I just need to work harder. And that lack of willpower is because I'm not good enough and everybody else can do it. Well, nobody's brain chemistry is built the same way. Nobody has the same 24 hours. People's life circumstances are very, very different. Your goals today might be very different than the goals you had 10, 15 years ago. And so when you're entering this new territory, it can be really scary. It can be really unfamiliar. But the part that I like to challenge people with is that fear and excitement, they're opposite sides of the same coin. And if you can choose to reframe and see the excitement side, when you start to creep up to self-sabotage, that's only happening for one of two reasons. Because you're afraid to fail or you're afraid to succeed. And more people are afraid to succeed than they realize. Because that's when they self-sabotage. When things are finally starting to go well, that's when they're like, whoa, their subconscious kicks in and it's like, no. We're not comfortable here. We don't like succeeding. We like being small. We like failing. We like staying back over here. Another common theme is I see clients who are like, I've never been below 200 pounds. I've never been able to break that number. That's in their head. That's not in their body.
Exactly.
And so it's a pattern that we need to break. And that's where they need to really start to separate out, weed out. That's the work of coaching. That is what you actually do inside the coaching relationship is you start to like weed out all of these little things that keep us stuck time and time again.
Just going to share, this is so ringing true for me because I'm about to step on stage. One of the things that my posing coach keeps telling me is at this point, you know the posing, you've done the work with your physique. You just have to get on stage and believe that you can do it. And this is what I keep reminding myself that might be helpful to other people. When I am practicing my posing and I'm going to get on stage, I just remind myself, we are on a floating rock in space. Like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about what other people think about you. Like, why not just go for it? Go for the success. Step into it. Embody it. You might be thinking, who am I to be this kind of successful person? Why not?
Yeah. Why not you?
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. Go for it.
Exactly. On that note, I would love to pass it over to you, Mare, if you can take us through the working hard piece, but how does that tie into actually not being in a proper deficit?
Absolutely. So T actually touched on this a little bit during her little rant there, which I love that you did. I really did feel the passion. But this goes back to that idea that women think they're doing all the right things, but they're still not seeing that progress. And like T touched on, most of the time it's because you're not in a consistent calorie deficit. So
consistent.
Yes, consistent being the keyword. This is not like, breaking news. Fat loss comes down to being in a calorie deficit. But knowing that you need a calorie deficit and actually doing it are two very different things. And T, you said it, right? Like a lot of women will be like, Coach T, I am in a deficit. Nothing's happening. But a lot of women think they're in this deficit and they're not because they're underreporting or under-tracking.
Mm-hmm.
They might be bang on Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, and then they overeat on the weekends. There's the bites, licks, and tastes that we talked about. So that looks like, literally packing your kids' snacks, lunches, having a couple bites. I had one client, like once we actually kind of brought awareness to it, that every time she would make like a peanut butter and Nutella sandwich for her kids, she was licking the knife and also not moving enough. That's what it is. It's creating awareness, right? But all of these things create this perfect storm where you're actually pulling yourself out of your deficit without realizing it. Because we also touched on this, even the right foods, the clean foods, if your total calories aren't low enough to keep you consistently in that deficit, fat loss is not going to happen. And I think it's also important to be blunt about this because I have a lot of women who have said to me, I eat intuitively, or they're like, I just know my portions. Okay, I don't doubt that you have a very good understanding of visually what a portion might look like for you, but we are not human scales. So we actually don't know. When you are not weighing and measuring, you are not being accurate. And we've talked about how data is so important. So the skill of intuitive eating, that's going to come. We want all of our clients to get to that point. But it actually comes after you build the skills of tracking, staying in a consistent deficit, and then being able to listen to your body. T, you wanted to add something?
I was going to say that's for maintenance because people say that all the time. People just are dying to jump into it.
Yes.
And I'm like, whoa, girl, you have to earn that because you have to get into a place where there's an outcome-based goal now. Fat loss, that's when we're tracking. But like to your point, Mare, that's not forever. When you're in maintenance, we can, of course, the goal is to intuitively, if that's what you want to do. Some people like tracking, but you saying, I know my portions, I'm sure you know it to maintain because that's your body's default, not to be in a deficit. Your body doesn't want to be in a deficit. You have to coax your body into eating less.
Yeah, I also think you need to go through that process of being in the deficit of tracking and understanding because that's when you truly gain that skill of visually understanding what your body needs and feeling what your body needs.
The goal is actually what should determine what tool you use to get there. And so there are all of these different tools. And for some people, there might be certain triggers. And just I'm speaking more from an eating psychology coaching perspective, that tracking might be triggering. And there are certain exceptions or other ways of going about it for that segment of people. But if we're just talking about overarching, there's none of that going on, then the tool needs to be leveraged appropriately for the goal that you have. And so fat loss requires a different level of accuracy to make sure that the progress can be as predictable as possible from a coaching relationship perspective. And when you get to a place where you're like, I want to test out how I maintain this, which is what you were saying, T, that's where you can go into, okay, we're going to increase more free meals. We're going to stop weighing food. We're going to start using more visual plating tools. And that's where you start to get to a different level of lifestyle where you're learning to trust yourself around food in a whole other way. But until you have that foundation and that clear understanding, it's going to be really hard for you to get to that fat loss goal, which I think is really important to determine the fat loss piece and what the goal is in the tool versus maintenance and lifestyle and the visual tools that we can use there.
That's a really good way of differentiating. And that's the thing, like your body is going to respond to the stimulus that you give it, right? So if you are in fat loss and you're not seeing those changes, then we know what we need to leverage. George, you always say it's like we only have so many levers we can pull in every situation. And so if fat loss is the goal, then the deficit is necessary. Then it means that if it's not happening, we have to get tactical and look. I have like many client examples of where this happens because again, it is a skill. The good thing about that is that it can be learned. When I was away this summer, I got a voice note from one of my clients. Bear in mind, I've actually been working with her for a very long time and she's an amazing client, compliant, but it's like it clicked for her all of a sudden. And she sent me this voice note and she was in tears and she's like, I'm finally doing what you told me to do. And it came down to like the whole idea of these unnecessary calories that were adding up because she was self-sabotaging. There was a whole bunch of things, but it's like it clicked and she finally realized, okay, this is the goal. This is like the tool. This is the strategy. I'm going to listen to you, coach. And just in these last few weeks, she is like probably doing better than she has for the last like 6 months because it just clicked.
I love that. when you get to that place where it clicks, it actually feels easier. It doesn't feel like the same level of work because you're not resisting it. You're just like, okay, this is the path I need to walk. And one of my clients over the summer in her check-in, this is the first time it's ever felt easy. And I'm like, this is how it's supposed to feel because you're not resisting the work. You've done the work to create the baseline for yourself. Now it gets fun because you know what to expect. You know what your body needs and you're no longer fighting yourself. So now she's like, it feels easy and I found my middle ground. And that's like the hugest win because many women never get there.
Never. And it's so freeing. Like that's where I feel like the weight comes off.
Yes.
Exactly. And this is a perfect example. I'm going to mention one of my clients too, who we're literally in the trenches of this now. And she's so coachable. And I want to give her a major shout out. She's very health aware, but her thing was like, she fell into that pattern of tracking food. And then she would kind of come back to her maintenance because she had kind of limiting beliefs around like that tracking food is bad. But she actually herself was in a place where she came back on active duty and was like, I feel like I'm now ready to do the things required. I'm not attaching emotion to it. And then anyway, she was seeing progress with her fat loss and then she went away. She did fantastic on her trip. And then during her trip, she got back and she said, hey, what if I tested not tracking? And I had an honest conversation with her and I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but remember, like there's maintenance behaviors and then there's fat loss behaviors, right? Anyway, she did one check-in and she said to me, without me saying anything, she's like, T, I do agree. We should go back to the tracking because I was seeing a lot more consistent and predictable progress. And I feel like I've reframed that now where I don't attach the emotion to it. And I want to continue to track with the plan of going to intuitive eating in maintenance. And that was her light bulb moment. And I like that she came to that conclusion on her own because as coaches, we can say things to our clients, but it's up to them to kind of see us as the mentor and like, okay, great. You gave me this information. This is where I'm at. So that's where that dialogue comes in.
I love that. I bet she feels that freedom too, right? Because you feel it at your core at that point. You understand the strategy. Everything makes sense. I love that. We have many, many client stories that we could share, but this is kind of the consistent theme we see with our clients where they have these epiphanies. And then, like you said, Jord, it becomes just second nature. It's fun. I love this conversation. Okay, let's wrap it up then. If you have been saying to yourself that you're doing everything right, you're still not seeing the results you want, then what we encourage you and what we would love for you to do is just take a pause, get really honest with yourself, reflect, and look at what you're doing. And think about, maybe there's an area or more than one area where your current approach, deep down isn't consistent. Maybe it needs more structure. So we want you to think about that. And once you have that answer, the other thing is stop tweaking and changing things and MacGyvering things and just jumping from one thing to another. Stop guessing, stop gathering random information. What we want you to do is start following a process that is proven to work. Commit to actually doing the work, but seeing it all the way through because you don't need something new every week, every Monday, every month. You need to find the right plan. You need to work it consistently. You need to work it accurately, and you need to work it honestly. As always, we want to thank you so much for tuning in and spending time with us. We absolutely love having you here. If this conversation hit home for you, we would love it if you share it with a friend who needs to hear it. We're sure you have someone in your life who needs to hear it. And of course, take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you're listening because we are so grateful and your shares and reviews help us reach more awesome women like you. And be sure to join us next week because we've got, as usual, another powerful and awesome episode coming your way. Bye for now. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this. Getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.